There's a kind of power that doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't need approval. It just is. In a world addicted to noise, where every second demands your reaction, your opinion, your attention, silence can feel like a stranger, but maybe, just maybe, it's the part of you you've been missing all along. You see, strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision not to reply, the pause before a reaction. The calm you choose in the middle of chaos. You've been taught to fight back, to speak up, to push harder. But there's another way. One that doesn't drain you. One that doesn't make you lose yourself just to survive the noise. And that way begins with silence. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of mastery. Stillness that isn't passive, but deeply aware. It's the space where you stop surviving and start reclaiming your power. The Stoics knew this. They lived it. When the world grew loud, they didn't shout over it. They went inward, because that's where real resilience is born. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." And in that choice, the quiet, deliberate response is where you begin to unlock your strength. So today, I want to invite you into a different kind of space, not one filled with more noise or more advice, but one where you can hear your own thoughts again, where your breath slows and your clarity returns. This isn't just a video. It's a reminder that the calm you're looking for isn't out there. It's already within you. You just haven't listened in a while. As we walk through the Stoic path of silence together, don't try to memorize every word. Feel them. Let them land where they need to. And maybe, by the end, you'll realize you don't need to say more to become more. You just need to become still enough to remember who you are. Let's begin. Part 1. The noise is draining you. Why you feel exhausted without knowing why you wake up tired. But it's not your body that's tired. It's something deeper. That heaviness in your chest, that restlessness in your mind. It's not just stress. It's the weight of the noise of expectations. The pressure to explain yourself, to keep up, to stay relevant, to always have an answer, a reaction, a response. Even in your quiet moments, the noise follows you. Through your phone, your thoughts, your need to be on, and no one sees it, but you feel it. That slow erosion of your energy, that sense that you're constantly doing, but never really arriving anywhere that feels like peace. This isn't laziness. This isn't weakness. This is depletion. And it's happening because your mind is being pulled in 100 directions that don't belong to you. You're giving away your attention, and with it, your power. You're trying to carry too many voices that don't speak your truth. And in doing that, you've lost touch with your own voice, the quiet one inside that knows who you are, what you value, and what truly matters. Stoic wisdom teaches that not every voice deserves your ear, not every disturbance deserves your energy, and not every question demands your response. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are disturbed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." You've been giving too much away, and it's costing you more than time. It's costing you presence, clarity, self-trust. Here's the truth no one tells you. You're not exhausted because you're doing too little. You're exhausted because you've been defending your peace all day long. and sometimes without even realizing it. The noise around you, criticism, comparison, conflict, it doesn't need to be loud to be damaging. It just needs to be constant. And the longer you stay in that current, the more it wears you down. But there's a way out. Not by fighting the noise, but by stepping outside of it. That's what Stoic silence offers you. It's not a retreat. It's a return. A return to your center, to the place inside you that doesn't need validation to be steady, to the calm awareness that says, I don't need to respond to everything. I choose what's worth my energy. This is where resilience begins, not in doing more, but in discerning more. It begins with the choice to stop feeding the noise, to let go of the false urgency, to stop apologizing for resting, to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. When you practice this silence, you reclaim the most valuable thing you've been losing, not your time, but your power. Because your strength isn't in how much you can endure, it's in how wisely you protect what makes you whole. And if you feel distant from that wholeness right now, it's not gone. It's just buried under the noise. Let this be your invitation to turn inward, to listen, not to the world, but to yourself. And in that quiet, you'll begin to feel something return, your stillness, your clarity. Yourself. You don't need to fight harder, you need to come home. And silence is the doorway. Just step through. Part 2. Inner stillness. The refuge you've always had but never entered. There's a place inside you that knows peace. A space untouched by noise, unaffected by chaos, and unshaken by what the world expects from you. But the truth is, you don't visit it often. Maybe you didn't even know it existed. Or maybe you've just forgotten the way back. You've spent so long navigating the outside world, making decisions, handling responsibilities, reacting, explaining, adapting, that you've been pulled away from the most sacred ground you'll ever stand on, your own inner stillness. Stillness is not emptiness. It's not avoidance, it's presence. It's the moment you stop running. Not because you're tired, but because you finally realize you don't need to chase anything to be enough. The Stoics understood this. They didn't run from life. They stood rooted in it, not through control, but through clarity. They practiced stillness, not as luxury, but as survival. Because when the outside world grows loud, only the still can remain whole. Inner stillness is the refuge you carry with you everywhere, but it only reveals itself when you pause, when you breathe deeper than usual, when you stop talking just long enough to listen, and not to others, but to that quiet voice inside, the one that doesn't need to shout, because it already knows. When you choose silence with intention, you create space for truth. The noise fades, and what's left is you. Raw, honest, undistracted. This stillness isn't about being inactive. It's about being centered. It's where your values live, where your boundaries are born, where you stop acting out of fear or pressure and start choosing from a place of grounded strength. And here's what's remarkable. Stillness doesn't ask you to change who you are. It just invites you to remember, to strip away everything that isn't essential, to come back to your breath, to stand in your truth. Not with noise, not with force, but with calm conviction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't speaking poetically. He was reminding you that the sanctuary you seek isn't outside. It's within. And it always has been. But the world doesn't reward stillness. It rewards speed. Opinions, constant action. That's why stillness feels radical, even rebellious. But it's in that quiet rebellion that you rediscover your strength. Not the kind others recognize, but the kind you can feel. Solid, centered, steady. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat with yourself? Not distracted, not performing, not running, just sat, breathed, listened, because in that stillness, something powerful happens. You remember that your worth isn't earned by productivity. Your peace isn't a reward, it's a birthright, and it's waiting for you patiently beneath the surface of everything. This is where resilience begins. Not by adding more, but by letting go. Not by pushing forward, but by grounding down. When you root yourself in stillness, you no longer react to every wind that blows. You become the mountain, not the storm around it. So take this moment, not just to hear these words, but to feel them, to let them guide you back to what you already have. That quiet, that power, that clarity, it's all still there. You've just been too loud to notice. Now, step inside and stay a while. Part 3. The power of not reacting. How you win without a word. Not everything needs your reaction. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to fight every battle that calls your name. And you don't owe your energy to every voice that tries to provoke you. In fact, there is something incredibly powerful, quietly powerful, in your ability to pause, to stay still when someone expects you to break, to choose silence, not out of weakness, but out of mastery. You've been conditioned to believe that reacting is strength, that speaking up, defending, proving, correcting is what it means to be powerful. But what if that's not always true? What if your real power isn't in your reaction, but in your restraint? Because every time you react to something outside of you, you're giving it control. You're handing over your peace, your focus, your center. And often, it's not worth it. Here's the secret the Stoics knew. Silence can be louder than any words. It can disarm more than any argument. And it can protect more than any defense. Epictetus once said, "When someone irritates you, it is not their actions that disturb you, but your judgment of those actions." Which means your reaction isn't about them. It's about you. Your choice, your control, your power. So when someone challenges you, criticizes you, misunderstands you, you have a decision to make. You can fight to be right, or you can protect your peace. You can win the argument, or you can keep your energy for something that actually matters. And you know this. Not everything deserves a response. Not every insult is worth your breath. Not every misunderstanding is your responsibility to correct. Choosing not to react doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about your inner world more. It means you've made peace a priority. It means you've decided that your energy is sacred, and you will no longer spend it recklessly. It's easy to respond out of habit. It's easy to let emotion lead. But the one who pauses, who breathes, who chooses stillness in the moment of heat. That is the one who is strong. Because strength isn't how loud you are, it's how calm you remain, how deeply you know yourself, and how little you let the outside world shake your truth. So what happens when you stop reacting? You stop feeding what drains you. You stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. You stop performing for people who aren't even listening. And in that space, in that silence, you win. Not in a way the world applauds, but in a way your soul feels. Because you stayed true to yourself. You chose grace over chaos. You protected your peace. This is the quiet strength of Stoicism, to be unmoved, to be steady, to let others rage while you remain rooted. And the more you live from this place, the less the world can pull you out of it. Because now you know the difference between reaction and power. And you've chosen power. So the next time the noise rises, the next time someone tries to provoke, push, or pull you off center, pause, breathe. Remember who you are and win without a word. Part 4. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Your energy is sacred. Not because someone else told you so, but because you feel it every time it's drained, every time it's wasted, every time it's given to things that don't nourish you. You feel it, and maybe for a long time you've ignored that feeling. Because you were trying to be everything for everyone, trying to be agreeable, to be available, to be strong in ways that only made you feel empty. But here's the truth. Your energy was never meant to be handed out like spare change. It was meant to be guarded like something holy. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from a conversation, a situation, a scroll through social media, feeling heavier than before? Not because of what was said, but because of what it took from you. That fatigue, that fog, that inner tension. That's the cost of giving away your energy too freely. Stoic wisdom invites you to step back, to observe what drains you, to ask, is this worthy of my time, of my peace, of my emotional presence? And if the answer is no, then you already know what needs to happen next. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" That question isn't just about action. It's about energy. Is this person, this argument, this mental loop necessary for your growth, your peace, your purpose? If it's not, protect yourself, not with walls, but with awareness. You don't need to shut people out. You just need to stop letting them in without permission, because your boundaries aren't cruelty, they are clarity. And clarity is kindness to yourself. You're allowed to leave the room, to end the call, to not respond to that comment, to rest instead of explain, to give your energy only to what aligns with your deepest values, not your deepest fears. Every time you choose silence over reaction, stillness over drama, peace over pleasing, you're honoring something sacred inside you. You're choosing you, and that's not selfish. That's wise, because you can't pour from an empty well. You can't show up for what matters if you're constantly drained by what doesn't. The Stoics didn't see energy as infinite. They saw it as precious, and they understood that every thought, every word, every emotional response was either a deposit or a withdrawal. So ask yourself honestly, who or what is making withdrawals in your life? And what are you doing to replenish the balance? Protecting your energy doesn't mean walking away from responsibility. It means being more intentional with how you show up. It means reserving your strength for what truly matters, your integrity, your inner peace, your purpose. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. to pause, to stay quiet, to let the world spin without you for a while, and return only when your presence is a choice, not an obligation. This is what reclaiming your life looks like, not in grand gestures, but in small, quiet decisions. The decision to breathe before reacting, to walk away before burning out, to stay connected to yourself even when the world pulls in every direction. So from this moment on, I want you to remember, you are not limitless, you are valuable, and your energy is not for sale. Give it where it grows, guard it where it leaks, and treat it like the sacred resource it is. Because the more you protect what's within, the more powerful you become without ever having to prove it. Part 5. Quiet confidence. Let the silence speak for you. There's a kind of confidence that doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't seek the spotlight because it knows exactly who it is, and that is more than enough. This is the kind of confidence that rises in silence. Not the silence of fear or hesitation, but the silence of someone who no longer needs outside approval to feel whole. Someone who knows they don't have to react, defend, or explain, because their peace speaks louder than any words ever could. You've probably been taught that confidence is performance, that you have to walk a certain way, speak a certain way, present yourself constantly just to be seen, respected, or taken seriously. But real confidence doesn't come from attention. It comes from alignment. It's born when your actions, your values, and your voice are in harmony, even when no one is watching. Stoic philosophy teaches us that strength is quiet. Marcus Aurelius led one of the most powerful empires in history, yet his journals were filled with reminders not to show off, not to seek praise, not to live for the applause. Because the moment you need validation from others, you've given them control over your sense of worth. You don't need that, not anymore. Because you're learning something deeper, that the most unshakable kind of presence is the one that doesn't ask for permission to exist. When you speak less but live clearly, people notice. They feel your energy. They recognize the depth behind your calm. They may not always understand it, but they respect it because it's rare. In a world full of noise and performance, your stillness becomes magnetic. Your silence becomes a signal, a quiet one, but powerful. You don't have to respond to be heard. You don't have to argue to stand your ground. You don't have to shout to be seen. When your life is guided by inner clarity, your presence becomes a message in itself, and that message says, I am here. I am whole. I don't need to prove my value. I live it. There's deep dignity in restraint, in the choice not to react when provoked, in the decision to let your peace matter more than your pride. That's not suppression. That's power with purpose. That's you choosing stillness, not because you can't speak, but because you know you don't need to. Confidence isn't found in how loudly you live. It's found in how honestly you do. It's in the quiet way you walk away from drama, the soft no you give when something doesn't align, the calm you maintain in the face of misunderstanding, not because you don't feel it, but because you've mastered how to carry it. Let your silence be intentional. Let it speak for you. Let it carry your values, your boundaries, your self-respect, because the one who doesn't need to prove themselves is already free. Free from the need to be understood. Free from the grip of ego. Free to choose presence over performance. So the next time you're tempted to react, to explain, to prove, pause. Let your quiet be enough. Let your energy say what words never could. Let your life, not your volume, do the talking. And in that space of stillness, you'll feel something rise inside you. Not arrogance, not indifference, but something far deeper, a knowing, a steady, grounded knowing that says, I don't need to speak to show who I am. I am already speaking in how I live. That is quiet confidence, and it's been in you all along. Part 6. Rediscovering You. What silence reveals beneath the noise. There is a version of you that exists beneath the noise, beneath the to-do lists, the pressure, the expectations, the constant pull to perform, a version that doesn't have to prove, impress, or protect. It's not gone, it's just been quiet, waiting for you to slow down, long enough to hear it again. You've lived so much of your life reacting, responding, shaping yourself to fit what the world demanded. And somewhere along the way, you started to forget what your own voice sounded like, what you actually believe, what you actually want. What matters to you, not what's trending, not what others expect, but what feels true deep down in the still corners of your heart. Silence brings that back. It strips away the noise until all that's left is you. Not the polished version, not the performing version, but the honest one. And that version is the strongest thing you'll ever reconnect with. In silence, clarity returns. You begin to notice what drains you and what nourishes you. You start to see which parts of your life are built on pressure and which ones are rooted in peace. The masks fall away, and for once, you're not thinking about how you look, you're feeling into who you are. Stoic wisdom reminds you you are not your role, not your past, not your reputation. You are what you choose to align with again and again in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when there's no reward for being honest, except the calm you feel when you finally are. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." That's what silence gives you, the space to dig, not into the chaos outside, but into the truth inside. And yes, it can be uncomfortable at first, because when the distractions fade, what's left are your real thoughts, the ones you've buried. The dreams you set aside, the hurts you haven't healed, but also the clarity you forgot you had. The wisdom that's been waiting. The courage that doesn't scream, but whispers, "You're not lost, you're just coming home." You don't have to reinvent yourself. You just have to remember yourself, and silence is the path back, back to your values, back to your intentions, back to the still, steady center that's been there all along, beneath the stress, beneath the stories, beneath the noise. You were never broken. You were just buried. And now, as you return to silence, not as escape, but as a practice, you begin to uncover something essential, not something new, but something ancient. Unshaken, yours. This is the gift of silence. Not to isolate you, but to realign you, to reintroduce you to the parts of yourself that the world taught you to hide, to bring you back into contact with your own depth, where your real strength has always been. So next time the noise grows too loud, don't just unplug. Return. Sit in the quiet. Let it feel strange. Let it be still and wait, because in that stillness, something powerful rises. Not a louder voice, but a truer one. And when that voice speaks, you'll know you're not becoming someone new. You're finally hearing who you've always been. Part 7. The Stoic Reframe. Stillness is strength, not surrender. You've been told to move fast, to always be doing, achieving, pushing forward. And when you pause, even for a moment, there's that voice inside whispering, "You're falling behind." But that voice is wrong. Stillness isn't falling behind. It's where your strength is built. The Stoics saw stillness not as inaction, but as mastery. Stillness is what allows you to respond instead of react, to act with intention instead of impulse, to make choices from clarity, not chaos, In a world that rewards noise, stillness feels radical. It feels like rebellion. But it's not rebellion against the world. It's a return to yourself. You don't need to be everywhere at once. You don't need to comment on everything, solve everything, fix everything. What you need is presence. What you need is space to think, to feel, to reconnect with what actually matters. Stillness isn't giving up. It's giving yourself the room to choose, to decide what's worth your attention, what's worth your time, what's worth your energy. When you choose stillness, you're not escaping life. You're meeting it fully, completely, awake. No filters, no noise, just truth. And sometimes, truth is quiet. It doesn't demand the spotlight. It just is. And when you sit with it, really sit, you start to see things as they are. You begin to see yourself as you are, not broken, not behind, not too much or not enough, just human, capable, worthy of peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's what stillness teaches you. That your real power has nothing to do with control over the outside, and everything to do with control over the inside. And here's something most people miss. Stillness is not always comfortable. It's not always calm. At first, it can feel like sitting in a storm, not because the world is loud, but because your mind is. But that discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're healing, that you're shedding layers you no longer need, that you're finally making space for what's real. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. It means not rushing to fix what can't be fixed, not explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, not proving your worth through constant motion. It means standing grounded in your values, in your truth, in your peace, and letting the world spin without pulling you into its chaos. You don't need to move fast to be strong. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to act to be worthy. Sometimes your greatest power is found in the space between your actions, the pause before the reply, the breath before the decision, the silence before the next step. That's where strength lives, not in the noise, but in the quiet knowing that you are enough as you are. Right here, right now, so reframe what the world taught you. Stillness isn't surrender. Stillness is strategy. Stillness is awareness. Stillness is strength. And the more you return to it, the more you remember. You don't need to force your way forward. You just need to be fully present with where you are. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be still and let your presence speak louder than anything you could say. Conclusion. You've made it this far, not by escaping the noise, but by turning inward, by listening, by remembering the power that was always there, beneath the surface. You don't need louder words, more arguments, or endless validation. You need stillness, stillness that grounds you, protects you, leads you. Every moment you choose silence, you're choosing clarity. Every pause becomes a statement, a declaration that says, I am no longer controlled by the outside world. I have returned to myself. This is not weakness. This is not retreat. This is strength, quiet, steady, unshakable. Let your silence speak for your peace. Let your stillness protect your energy. Let your calm presence be the loudest thing in the room. Because when you live from this place, nothing outside of you can shake what's within you. And if this message touched something inside you, if it reminded you of who you are and who you're becoming, then I ask you, stay with this journey. Subscribe to the Stoic philosophy. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a space for your growth, your healing, your quiet revolution. There's more wisdom to come, and more of you to uncover. So take a breath, let it settle, and walk forward, not louder, but deeper, stronger, wiser, and more you than ever.